नमस्ते गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम
Krishna Hare Hare,
राम
Hare
राम हरे
Rama,
हरे.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Welcome everyone. We are discussing from Srimad Bhagvatam. We are on Canto 3. We are on chapter 4. Vidura approaches Maitreya. So in this chapter, we have discussed how Vidurji, he reaches Maitreya and he is still with Uddhavji. We have heard so far that how Vidurji, as he is insulted by Duryodhan, he leaves the palace, he goes to so many holy places and ultimately reaches Prabhashetra. There he comes to know that Krishna and entire family of Yadus, they have left. Kauravas have left, they all died in Kurukshetra. And then he goes to Yamuna and there he meets with Maitreya. And there he meets with Uddhav, and Uddhav, he's asking so many things. He asked about the family of Krishna and Kauravas and everything. So Uddhavji, he expressed his sad situation as he's in separation from Krishna. And then he describes the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, pastimes of Krishna out of Vrindavan. And we discussed till verse number 23, I think.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So 21. Okay. So we discussed till verse number 21. So in verse number 21, now Maitreya Muni, Uddhavji is telling how he is maintaining himself in separation, how he is bearing the pain of separation from Krishna. So he tells that Krishna, before leaving this planet, he gave me instructions. He gave me a service. Please go to Badrika Ashram and give association to the sages there. That is the only thing I could not do in this entire avatar. All the time I was there on this planet, I could not do. I could not go and meet the sages of Badrika Ashram. So please you go on my behalf and meet them. So that is a service which is keeping him alive. So 21st verse will recite. Soham taddarshanalada वियोगार्ति युतः प्रभो गमिष्येदैतं तस्य भद्रया मण्डलम्. Translation.
My dear Vila, now I am mad for want for the pleasure of seeing him. And just to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badrikashrama in the Himalayas for association, as I have been instructed by him.
Now I am mad for the want of pleasure of seeing him. Darshana ahlada. So how is it related? He is saying, okay, because I am separation, I am feeling separation, so I'll fulfill my desire to see him by associating with the sages of Naimisharanya, by the service which he has given me. So absorption in the service is a way to connect to Krishna. And that is what Uddhav is telling here. Because I am feeling separation, so I'll serve the devotees and I'll be absorbed in service given to me by Krishna. So that keeps one free from material sufferings, and that's how one can experience the pleasure of being with Krishna. So Prabhupada writes that a devotee constantly associates with the Lord. He is not for a moment unengaged, and actually there is no factual separation from him. So therefore, Uddhav says, now I'm going to see the sages there, Naranara and Rishi, they are doing tapasya there for the welfare of living entities. Yatra Narayano Devo
Yatra Narayana Devo
Narascha Bhagavan Rishihi
Naraksha Bhagavan
Mridu Tivram Tapo Dirgham Te Pate Loka Bhavanao.
भावना
There in Bhadrakashram, the personality of
very
Godhead,
specific.
as the savior of Nar and Narayan, has been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all enabled living.
So there, I'll go to Badrik Ashram. There, what is happening? Narayana and Nara. So they are Bhagavan Rishi, they are the great sages. So Mridu, Tivram, Tapo, Dirgham. They are amiable. They are merciful to everyone. They are very gentle towards everyone. And therefore, what they are doing? Tivra Tapa. They are doing severe austerity. Dirgham, for a long time they are doing. For the welfare of living entities. Lok Bhavanaha. So Prabhupada writes in the purport that Badrik Ashram is a great place of pilgrimage for Hindus. Pious Hindus go to pay respects there. And then he says there are 4 dhams which represent the planets of spiritual sky, which consists of Brahma Jyoti. The 4 dham. Badrik Ashram, Rameshwara, Jagannath Puri and Dwarka. The faithful Hindus still visit all these holy places for perfection of spiritual realization. Next verse. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti Uddhavad Upakarnya
इत्युत्थाद
Surida
उपाकर्ण्य
इति उद्यपानय
Jnanena Shamayat Shatta
ज्ञानेन
Shokam
ज्ञानेन
Baddhaha.
शोकं
शोकमुक्तम् इति बुधः
After hearing from Uddhava all about the annihilation of his friends and relatives, the learned Vidura pacified his overwhelming bereavement by dint of his transcendental knowledge.
Yeah. So this is a very, very important thing. How Vidurji pacified himself. And this is what every devotee will have to go through in his life or her life. In the midst of problems, the passing away of near and dear ones, the health crisis, financial crisis, and so many other crises will come in the life of devotees. How to handle those situations? Jnanena shamayat shatta. He pacified ashamayat. Ashamayat means he pacified himself by jnanena, by transcendental knowledge. So this knowledge actually destroys all the illusion. Ritstam jnana sinatmanaha chittvainam samshayam yogam atisht uttishta bharata. That's what Krishna tells to Arjuna. Oh, Arjuna, get up, and with this sword of knowledge, Ritstam jnanasin. Jnana asina. Asina means the sword of knowledge. With the sword of knowledge, please cut off this ignorance which is there in your mind. So the bereavement is natural when problem comes in life. But in those situations, the purpose of reading Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav is not just to get a degree certificate, but to apply this in our life, in our difficult situations. Take shelter of scriptures in difficult situations. That is the purpose. And that is what Arjuna also did. When in the first canto, 15th chapter, we heard how Arjuna, when he came back from Dwarka, very devastated, he could not protect the wives of Krishna, and he's telling, Vanchito ham maharaja harina bandurupina yename aparitam tejo deva vismapanam mahat. I have been bereft of that power which could astonish even devtas. So now how I am pacifying myself? Deshakalartha yuktani ritatapopasamani cha haranti prasamam chittam govinda abhitani me. I am taking shelter of Govinda abhitani, the words which are spoken by Govinda, that is my shelter. So Vidurji is also doing the same thing. By hearing the instructions of Uddhavji, he pacified himself. So Prabhupada writes, all these, so when Vidurji heard about the annihilation of friends and relatives, he was hurled into bereavement for the time being. But because he was highly advanced in transcendental knowledge, he was quite competent to pacify himself by enlightenment. So that is the difference between a materialistic person losing something and a spiritualist, a devotee losing something. A materialist. That was the difference between Dronacharya and Arjun. When Dronacharya, he was told that Ashwatthama Hata, he left everything and he sat down. But Arjuna, although he came to know that Abhimanyu is killed, he didn't give up his service. He pacified himself, he continued serving. So a devotee never leaves the service in any situation. So Prabhupada is writing about that. Devotee is quite competent to pacify himself. One has to learn the art of subduing such bereavement with higher transcendental knowledge. So now, Prabhupada is writing that Uddhavji and Vidur, they met in the evening time. And the whole night they are, for the major part of the night, they were discussing. So Prabhupada writes, Vidur was now further advanced in knowledge due to association with Uddhav. So now what happened next? Satam Mahabhagavatam
Satam Bhagavatam
Prajantam
Bhagavatam
Kauravarshava Vishrambhad
Tam
Abhyadhitam
Karavasabha
Mukhyam Krishna
Vishwambaraha Abhyasanam
Mukyam
Mukhyam Krishna Parigrahe. While
by
Uddhava,
Uddhava,
the chief and most confidential amongst the devotee of Lord, was going away, Vidura, in affection and confidence, questioned him. Hare Krishna.
So now, next day morning, Uddhava, he was leaving. So whole night they were discussing, and next day morning, Uddhava just left. He was leaving. Mahabhagavatam Brajantam, he was going. So, Kauravarshabha, so the most confidential among the devotees of the Lord, Uddhava, he was going away. So what Vidurji did? Vishrambhat, with great confidence and with great respect, Abhyadhattedam, he submitted his request. Mukhyam Krishna Parigrahe, he questioned him. So now, Prabhupada writes a very important purport. This and the next is very, very interesting. Next few verses. Prabhupada writes, Vidurji was much older than Uddhav. By family relationship, Uddhav was a contemporary brother of Krishna, while Vidur was as elderly as Krishna's father. But although junior by age, Uddhav was advanced in devotional service. Therefore, he is considered chief among the devotees, Mahabhagavatam. Vidur was confident about this, and thus he addressed Uddhava in that higher category. That is the way of courteous dealings between devotees. So that is how one has to understand that courteous dealing between devotees. So the age is not a criteria, but a devotional advancement is criteria. Of course, when it comes to giving respect, we can always see something which this person has more than. Just like, what are the various things which we can see in a devotee to judge, oh, he is a senior devotee? What are the various things by which one can see a senior devotee?
so in this case,
Absorbed in the
Yeah.
service project.
Okay, so ठीक है, somebody is absorbed in service. So if somebody is regularly, consistently doing services, so somebody may say, okay, he is a very, very senior devotee, doing services since so many years, consistently. Okay. Anything else?
His behavior of humbleness or
Okay, he is a humble devotee. Okay, he is very, very gentle in his dealings with everyone. That means he is a senior devotee. Okay, ठीक है.
never waste a time. Avartha kalatvam, like
Okay,
apart from Krishna conscious activity.
on a higher level, the basic level, how we generally, मतलब senior devotee किसको बोलते हैं?
As per his post in temple and somewhere maybe a counselor or mentor, as per that also we.
Criteria, yes. If somebody is a senior person in the temple, having a post, counselor, okay, that person is senior person. And who else is called a senior devotee? Who has
Initiation.
spent
By age also.
age also, he is a very senior person. He is much more elder than me in age. That means he is a senior devotee. Okay. If somebody has spent many years in Krishna consciousness, that is a senior devotee. Okay. And then what everyone said, if somebody is more absorbed in service and is more humble, any other thoughts?
So as per his initiation criteria also we think is initiated, so we must.
ओके यस, मेरे से ज्यादा सीनियर है, पहले से इनिशिएशन हुआ है मेरा इनका. ओके ठीक है. एनीथिंग एल्स? So now if we have to categorize them, amongst these categories of senior devotees, so age में senior है, years spent in bhakti senior, दीक्षा senior मेरे से पहले हो गया है, और he is serving since so many years, or he has a post in the temple, or he is more humble, or he is more absorbed in devotional service. So which we should put at the highest level?
Absorption project.
Okay. Somebody may be absorbed for a while.
Oh.
So how do we understand? Yes.
Who has put in more number of years in the Krishna consciousness?
हाँ, so that's what that is one criteria. Okay, मतलब साल बिता लिए, मतलब वो सबसे ऊपर है, senior हो गया. That is what? Just spending years in Krishna consciousness.
Years and years together with the spirit.
Just he is spent years in Krishna consciousness. उसको सबसे ऊपर रखेंगे?
In this case,
Not in this case.
Vidurji saw Uddhava as a knowledgeable person. He was close to Krishna. He had got the knowledge directly from Krishna.
Not just a knowledgeable person. He was a Mahabhagavata. There is a difference between having knowledge and becoming a devotee. So he didn't see him as a knowledgeable person. He saw him as a great devotee, most confidential devotee. So although he was younger in age, much younger, like his son. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Another category project, intimacy project. How much he is surrendered to Guru, how much he is that depends upon the level of attachment to Guru and Sadhu Krishna. Attachment to Guru and surrender to Guru, that is actually a criteria for seniority, not a age or other factors. How much level of surrender, like on which stage he belongs to.
This person is surrendered to Guru. Just ये एक सेवा उसने अच्छा से कर दिया, मतलब surrender to Guru. How can we understand? How to judge the level of surrender of a person? Surrender to a Guru or to the process.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given that shloka, na Prabhuji, that six levels of surrender.
Yeah. So how can I understand कि ये जो है ना बहुत ही surrendered है, क्योंकि ये सेवा अच्छे से कर दी, इसलिए surrendered है. So can I say that?
No, Prabhuji, no. We will not be able to understand unless we are at that.
Yeah. So basically, if somebody is consistently practicing Krishna consciousness and exhibiting the qualities of a devotee over a long period of time, he may be younger in age, but if he is exhibiting the qualities, he has the realization of devotional service. That means, he is practicing it, what he's hearing and speaking. That person may be younger in age, but if he's practicing and he's showing and he's speaking the same. So that can be one of the criteria to understand he is a senior devotee. But that does not mean we should not respect other devotees. This whole exercise was to make us understand we can respect anyone. We should not say ये तो senior devotee नहीं है, इसको respect करने की जरूरत नहीं. We can find anything in any devotee and respect them for that thing. Oh, he may not be senior in age, but he is absorbed in devotion. As you said, he is very humble and is constantly doing services. So I should respect. So that's how we should try to see every devotee some good quality and try to respect that devotee for that thing. So that is how our devotee community grows very nicely in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, if we start thinking, ये तो junior devotee, ये तो मेरे से पहले, इसका मेरे दीक्षा बाद में हुआ है, ये तो junior है. Diksha may be an external thing. So somebody may take Diksha and may not even advance a bit. And somebody who is waiting for Diksha, but somehow is not getting Diksha, but he is serving mission of Prabhupada and he is reading every day, he is chanting also nicely. That is a better devotee rather than the person who is just taking Diksha and not doing anything. So that's how we can see any good quality in a person and appreciate him and respect him or her for that person, that quality. In this case, Vidurji saw Uddhava as a better devotee because he is close associate of the Lord, and he is of course a most confidential devotee also. So Prabhupada writes a very, very important point in the next purport. We'll see that in 26th purport. So we'll continue. Any thoughts, any questions, or should we go ahead?
Raji, it's very difficult to find out the qualities, internal qualities. External we can check out, but internal very difficult. So
yeah, that's what we have to see. We have to see the external qualities a devotee is manifesting. A devotee who is manifesting some external quality, just respect him or her for that. Internals we cannot know, but external कब तक दिखावा करेगा? We cannot make a show of devotion for long. So consistent devotion is automatically manifested in the character of a devotee. It is not like the splash of devotion or a flash of devotion. मतलब वो दिवाली का अनार रहता है, एकदम ऊपर जाता है, फिर करके गायब, दिख ही नहीं रहे प्रभु जी कहाँ गए, अभी तो बहुत सेवा कर रहे थे, अभी है ही नहीं. So consistency is a very, very important criteria to judge a devotee, where he is standing. Of course, we should not judge a devotee to see that ये मेरे से नीचे है, ऊपर है. We should try to judge ourselves in our consistency. And of course, when we are in that position of managerial, responsibility, then we have to see these realities, these things. Okay, this person is suited for this service. This person is not, suitable for this service. Otherwise, we should never ever try to judge devotees and, find where they are. So that can be very dangerous. So we should just try to understand our level and try to increase our devotion. So that is a very, very safe and organic way of advancing in Krishna consciousness. Okay, 25th verse. Vidura uvacha
Vidura Vacha,
Jnanam swatmaraha prakasham
Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham,
Yadaha yogeshwarai svaraste
Yada Yogeshwar Ishwaraste,
Ishwaraste
Vakumbhanarti Yadish,
Vritya svabhrityartha kritacharanti
Vidya Svabhrityara Kridakshanti.
Vidura said, O Uddhava, because the servants of Vishnu, the Lord, wander in the interest of serving others, it is quite fit that you kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened by the Lord himself.
Okay, so now Vidurji is asking a question. Jnanam Param, that transcendental knowledge regarding Swa Atma, regarding the self, Raha, which is very confidential, and that knowledge was Yadaha. Who spoke to you? Yogeshwara Ishvara, that same Supreme Lord who is Yogeshwara, he spoke this to you. Vaktum, please narrate Bhavan, your good self. He's giving a very respectable address, Bhavan. Bhavan means aap. Tvam means tum, So Bhavan. He is saying you are the very, very respectable servant of the Lord. Vaktum bhavano arahati. So therefore, please tell me Bhrityaha Swabhrityartha. Bhrityaha Swabhrityartha. Because the servants of Vishnu, they are always wandering for the interest of other Kritas Charanti. They don't do anything for themselves. Yat Vishnu Bhrityartha. So the Vaishnavas, Vishnu Bhritya, they just charanti, they wander and they give the knowledge of bhakti. Swabhritya Artha Kritaha. They give the knowledge of bhakti. So that is the role of a devotee. Anywhere else we have heard this type of statement? Somebody is telling, oh, you are traveling only for the welfare of people in general. Devotees, they just wander to purify the pilgrimage places. We have heard in the first chapter. Yudhishthira is telling to Vidurji in the 13th chapter, Bhavad Vidha Bhagavataha Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Vibho Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani. You travel to purify the places of pilgrimage. Nanda Maharaj is telling to Gargamuni, Mahad Vichalanam Nrinam Grihinam Digna Chetasam Nishreyasaya Bhagavan Kalpate Nanyatha Kvachit. Mahat, the great personalities, Vichalanam, they travel only for Grihinam, those who are householder, Dina Chetasam, always absorbed in materialistic life. They travel to enlighten these types of grihasthas, Nishreyasa, for their welfare. Nanyatha, there is no other purpose. So Prabhupada writes, servants of the Lord are actually servants of society. Bhritya, Swabhrityartha. They have no interest other than to enlighten in transcendental knowledge. They are interested in imparting knowledge of relationship. So what type of knowledge they give? Relationship of living being with the Lord. Activities in transcendental relationship and ultimate goal. Three types of knowledge devotees should give to ordinary people. What is your relationship? And after developing the relationship, what we have to do? And by doing that service, what will you get? Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. So that is what is described by Prabhupada simply. Relationship, what is the relation? What are the activities in that relation? What is the goal of human life? Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. That is what every devotee should try to give to others. That is real knowledge, which can help society achieve the real aim of human life. All the other knowledge is temporary. Next paragraph, Prabhupada writes, real transcendental knowledge descends in disciplic succession. Lord to Uddhava, Uddhava to Vidurji, and so on. So Uddhavji, he told Vidurji that, oh, Lord gave me his knowledge of his Paramam Sthiti. So Vidurji was anxious to know, what was that Paramam Sthiti? Please tell me, you didn't tell me that. You just told the various pastimes, but you didn't tell the knowledge which was Paramam Sthiti knowledge. So please tell me. So that is what he is asking. So Prabhupada writes, Vidurji was older than Uddhava, but he was anxious to become servant of Uddhava. This formula of transcendental disciplic succession is taught by Lord Chaitanya also. Kiva Vipra, Kivanyasi, Shudra Kene Noy, Ei Krishna Tattva Veta, Sei Guru Hoy. So now, when Vidurji asks this question, Uddhavji starts thinking, how can I make Vidurji, who is elder than me, as my disciple? So thinking like this, Uddhavji speaks the next verse. Uddhava uvacha
Uddhava uvacha
nanu te tattva samradhya
tattva samradhya
rishi kausha
Rishi
sakshat
Bhagavatam
bhagavata martya lokam jihasata.
Maitri
who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of God while he was about to quit this mortal world.
Yes. So now he's saying, Nanu, however, te tattva samradhya. Oh, Vidurji, you are worshipable. So therefore, what you should do, tattva samradhya. Please go to that Rishi Kausharava. Kausharava means Maitreya Muni. So please go to that worshipable Rishi. You should worship that Rishi, Maitreya, for this tattva. Whatever you're asking me, this Paramamsiti, please go to that worshipable Rishi and learn from him. Because Sakshat Bhagavata Adishtaha, he was directly instructed by the Lord. Antike means in front of me, he did that. Krishna, he directly instructed him in front of me. He was standing nearby only. Maitreya was standing nearby. So therefore, he heard everything. And Martya Lokam Jihasata, before leaving this world, Lord instructed him. Chakravarti Thakur writes, O fortunate one, what I have heard from the mouth of the Lord, as I have explained, is that all of the Lord's dear Yadus are situated in their respective abodes without giving up the bodies. But if you are asking about the nature of Lord's birth and pastimes, then Maitreya should be your guru. I have told you what happened to the devotees after they left. They were Devta portions and they went and all this I told. But if you want to know the real internal reason of the birth and pastimes, go to Maitreya Muni. And Prabhupada writes a very important purport. Somebody can read this purport?
Although one may be well versed.
Yes, Sachi Prantu has raised it. Yes, Prabhu, you have a question?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I just thought because when Krishna was instructing Uddhava, Maitreya was standing, but even Krishna was not even recognizing that Maitreya was standing there. In one
Yeah.
sense, in Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's purport, if you see that part where Krishna
Correct.
was even not recognizing the presence of Maitreya, and here
Correct.
Uddhava is telling that he want to directly, please go to, yes, that is Maryada Vyatikram to instruct someone, but I heard that, whether it is correct or no, I don't know, but I heard that part that Krishna was not recognizing Maitreya's presence there, and he was
It is there in
instructing
the verse
Uddhava.
itself. It is there in the verse itself. Krishna didn't see him, didn't even acknowledge his presence. He was just standing. He was
Correct.
not looking at him. So, but that is the humility of Uddhavji, because he is not a devotee. Never says कि मेरे को भगवान ने पूरा बताया है, ये बाजू में खड़े थे करने. वो तो ऐसे ही आ गए. So that's our devotee. He never feels that I am the most important person. That's the natural humility of Uddhava. He is saying a Lord instructed him. So Krishna Chakravarti Thakur in this verse, the translation says that he was standing in front of me. As Lord was instructing me, Maitreya was standing in front of me. That's how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur translates this verse. Antike. Antike means Prabhupada writes standing nearby. And so you see the translation, Antike means Prabhupada writes standing nearby. And word to word. And the translation Prabhupada says he was instructed by the Lord. And that's how Prabhupada gives two different things in verse, word to word meaning and translation. That's how Prabhupada does many times. He wants to give the maximum mileage. Word to word translation एक आचार्य का बोलते हैं, दूसरे आचार्य का translation बोलते हैं, तीसरे आचार्य का purport बोलते हैं. That's how Prabhupada does many times in the purports, because he wants to include everything in his purports. So many times you will see word to word will not match with the translation. Word to word meaning में कुछ और बोल रहे हैं और translation is different. Because word to word ये आचार्य से लिए हैं, translation ये आचार्य से लिए. So that's how Prabhupada does. So he was standing nearby. Yeah. So somebody can read the purport.
Although one may be well versed in the transcendental science, one should be careful about the offenses of Maryada, Vaidiki Karma, or impertinently surpassing a greater personality. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful in transgressing the law of Maryada, Vaidiki Karma, because by so doing one loses his duration of life, his opulence, pain, and piety, and the blessings of all the world. To be well versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of techniques of the spiritual science.
Yes. So this is a very, very, very important understanding which every devotee should have. Just becoming a learned scholar is no right to speak in front of a superior person. Somebody may know all the Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries and all the Acharya's commentaries. But if a senior person is there, so who is a senior we saw? A person who is more advanced in devotion, who has spent many years in Krishna consciousness, consistently practicing. If that person is standing in front and you are told to speak, then we should be very, very careful not to speak unless, forcibly somebody puts us in that situation. Ek bar if somebody says, please speak, and you see nearby so many senior devotees are there, then it is Maryada Vyatikram. So all the services which brings one to a limelight, that, for example, singing, speaking, we should always be hesitant to do these services. We should not be so much eager to do this service unless we are asked for by senior devotees or authorities. But when it comes to humble menial services, we should be in front to do that. So that is how a devotee grows very nicely in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, if somebody is very eager to do all these services, this is, I am in front. सब लोग बोलेंगे वाह वाह क्या कीर्तन किया, क्या लेक्चर दिया है. A person may be technically expert in that. He may be knowing all the purports, all the verses, but still, the principle here is very nicely mentioned. Although one may be well versed in the transcendental science, this one line is sufficient. Well versed. पूरा रट लिए प्रभुपाद बुक्स, प्रभुपाद परपोर्ट्स, चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर, ये वो, बलदेव विद्याभूषण, आजीवो गोस्वामी से आप पढ़ लिए हैं, पूरा याद कर लिए. One should be careful about the offense of Maryada Vyatikram, because one loses 4 things: Ayu, Shriyo, Yasho, Dharma, Lokanashi, Shrevacha, Hanti, Shreyamsi, Sarvani, Pumso, Mahat Atikrama. Mahat Atikrama, मतलब मर्यादा व्यतिक्रम किया तो आपका यश, आपकी आयु, आपकी बुद्धि, सब कुछ नष्ट हो जाएगा. So that is the understanding. So we have to be very, very careful. Prabhupada continues. Uddhava. So Prabhupada writes, to be well versed in transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques. So we should be technically aware of how this spiritual science works. Otherwise, कोई हाथ में अगर chemical लिया and you don't know how it works, then you will burn yourself. So that is how we have entered a very, very high intensity zone. We have to be really careful how we are dealing with devotees. Otherwise, we'll destroy our devotional service. Of course, whatever is done is not destroyed, will destroy our propensity and desire to practice bhakti further. So, Prabhupada writes, Uddhava, being well aware of these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidurji to approach Maitreya Rishi to receive knowledge. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as his spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was older. Then Prabhupada writes, the rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well versed. Again, these two words are very important. Competent bhi hai, well versed bhi hai. So Uddhava was competent. Vrishninam pravaro mantri krishnasya daita sakha shishyo brihaspate sakshat uddhavo buddhi sattama. Who can be greater personality than this? The best of the ministers, Vrishnis, Pravaro Mantri, Krishnasya Daita Sakha, the best friend of Krishna, Shishya Brihaspati, Shaksha, disciple of Brihaspati, Buddhi Sattama, the most intelligent person. और क्या है उससे बड़ा combination और क्या चाहिए? Competent and well versed, but still, one should not be eager to impart instructions in presence of a higher personality. Therefore, Uddhava sent Vidurji to a higher person, Maitreya. Prabhupada writes, since both Uddhav and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidur or anyone else. But Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim to become the spiritual master. Again, Prabhupada writes, one should not be eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of fame and profit, but should become a spiritual master only for service. The Lord never tolerates, this is another very powerful line, Lord never tolerates the impertinence of Maryada Vyatikram. Lord can tolerate anything, not impertinence of Maryada Vyatikram. He never tolerates it. So this is a very, very important thing. The more we become learned, as we are hearing, reading Bhakti, Vaibhav, we may be getting so much of the information. And of course, I'm not judging anyone, but still, we should always see that, okay, this personality is greater than me. So, unless somebody is really senior and asking us to speak, of course, all of you are senior most here, but I'm just making a point here. So, a devotee should never be eager to speak in front of seniors. Again, Prabhupada writes, one should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master in the interest of one's own fame and gain. I'll become famous. If I'll not speak, then how will I become famous? That means you have not understood the whole process of Krishna consciousness. The more one thinks like this, the more that person becomes lower and lower in his advancement. Impertinence on the part of pseudo spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization. So it is not about our ability, it is about our eligibility. We may be able, we may be well versed, we may be expert in speaking, we may be expert in singing, but are we eligible for it? So that is the question. Okay, any questions? We'll go ahead. Okay, so 27th verse. Now Shukdev Goswami starts speaking. So Maitreya and Vidur Samvad is about to start. The conversation was going on between Uddhav and Vidurji. That conversation was going on between Shukdev and Parikshit. That was going on between Sut Goswami and Shaunaka Rishi. So story chal raha hai. So now, Shukdev Goswami speaks. Shri Shuka Uvacha
Sri Sukha Vacha.
iti sa iti savitrena vishwa iti sa iti iti savitrena vishwamurte
Disaha Vidurena
ईशा
Vishwa.
विश्वेण विश्वमूर्ते
भावितो
गुणकथवास्ता
Tataya Sudaya Plagato Tapa.
क्षणमिव पुलिने यमस्वं
Shamiva Yamashvashuta.
तमोस्कृत अनुपगैर् अनुपगवि शान्ततोपात् औपगवि
Sukdev Goswami said, O king, after thus discussing with Vidura the transcendental name, fame, qualities, etc., on the bank of Yamuna, Uddhava was overwhelmed with great affliction. Affliction, he passed the night as if it were a moment, and thereafter he went away.
Okay, so actually this happened in the night itself, the later part of the night. After discussing long with Uddhavji, he asked, please tell me. Uddhavji says, please go to Maitreya. And now because he could understand that Uddhava is about to leave. So he again felt very, very sad because he is about to get separated from another great devotee of the Lord. Next verse, translation. 28 verse translation.
The king inquired at the end of the pastimes of the Lord of the three words. Sri Krishna, after the disappearance of the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasty, who were the best of the great commanders, why did Uddhava alone remain?
So now again, he is asking why he remained. He could have gone back with Krishna. What was the role of Uddhava after disappearance of the Lord? So that is a question which he is asking. So Prabhupada focuses on this word nidhanam. Nidhanam means transcendental abode of the Lord. Nidhanam should not mean Lord left this world. That means he left his body. No, Jiva Goswami gives another understanding. Ni means highest. Dhana means opulence. So because the abode of the Lord is the highest manifestation of transcendental opulence, his abode is called Nidhanam. Apart from grammatical elucidation, the real purpose of the word Nidhanam is to indicate that all members of Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties were direct associates of the Lord, and they were all dispatched to the spiritual world after this. And then another word Prabhupada focuses on is this Akritim. So Nidhanam and Akriti. So fourth line says Tatyaj Akriti Tradhishaha. Akriti means pastimes. A means complete. Kriti means transcendental pastimes. Since the Lord is identical with his body, there is no question of quitting his body. As some people say, oh, Krishna left his body, that means he is like ordinary person like us. No, it is not like that. To act in accordance with the rules and customs of the world, the Lord seems to take birth or leave his body, but the devotees know well the actual fact. Why Krishna left a material body to bewilder all these atheists who were anyways not believing in Krishna as a supreme Lord? So to give them some, something to chew upon and something to, discuss. Oh, just see, Krishna left his body. That means he's an ordinary person. So just to bewilder the atheists, Krishna left a body which was material. What was the big thing for Krishna to leave a body? That's why Bhagavatam is called as Mohini Murti, bewilders people who are atheists. To others, those who are not devotees, the comments and explanations of such acharyas may appear to be grammatical jugglery. So those who are not devotees, they'll say they are making some story out of it. This is grammatical jugglery. No. But the devotees, they understand, okay, all this is in disciplic succession coming, so it is right. The great teachers, they have no purpose bewildering people. Vyasdev and all the great acharyas who were sitting in jungle, they were not writing to become, number one bestseller. ये भागवतम number one bestseller हो गया. What purpose they had to fulfill? They were not there to cheat people and get some money. So why they will cheat people? Why they'll write something which is false? So that is the understanding. That's the question. So a devotee should never get bewildered. Should always follow the line of disciplic succession. Then Prabhupada writes, Upagateshu is also very important. All the members of Vrishni and Bhoja directly reach the abode of the Lord. Other devotees do not reach the abode directly, but pure devotees, they associates. So we know the process. The general process is, after a devotee perfects his life or her life in this world, they are given an apprenticeship. Internship एक साल का रहता है, एक lifetime का, where they are given a chance to take birth in a planet where Krishna is performing his pastimes. They are trained there. And they learn how to serve Krishna as a Gopa or a Gopi or whatever the rasa of that devotee is. And then after leaving that body, he goes to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha or Goloka. But the associates of the Lord, they don't have to do this. They come from the Vaikuntha, they go back to Vaikuntha or Goloka. Okay, so Shukadeva Goswami says, so King asked, Parikshit Maharaj, why Uddhava remained here? Shri Shuka Uvacha,
Sri Sukavacha,
Brahma Shapapadeshena,
Brahma
Brahma
Sahapapadiri,
Kalena Bhavanchitaha,
Kalena Bhogavanchitaha,
Samritam,
Samritya Sakulam
Amrita
Chitam,
Sakulam
Chintaya.
Dakshan Deham Achintayat. Sukadev Goswami replied, My dear king, the cursing of the Brahmanas was only a plea, but the actual fact was a supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. He thought to himself as follows.
Okay, so we have discussed this, but Shukadeva Goswami is again telling, the Parikshit Maharaj asked, why? Why Uddhava stayed and why Krishna? So first he answers, Tyakshan, why Krishna left this world? Why he had to go back? So Brahma Shapa Apadeshena. So on the plea of the curse of Brahmanas. So all the Narada and all these, they cursed because they were, the sons of the youth of Yadu dynasty. They made fun of them. But the actual fact was it was time for him to go back. So he had to plan something. That's why he planned this. And that's why, another thing, Gandhari cursed Krishna that your dynasty will be destroyed. So that was another plan of Krishna. Some excuse must be there. Why, Krishna will go back? Why the dynasty of Krishna will be destroyed? So he planned. Chakravarti Thakur writes, he quotes many scriptures describing how Lord's form is eternal. Lord's form is not material. So he says, for example, one can say, Chaitra was the king. Giving up the body, he burnt it. So it looks a little confusing. Chaitra was the king. Giving up the body, he burnt it. So how to understand? Giving up the body, he burnt it. So he says, the body refers to that of his wife who had died. Since it is impossible that he dies and burns his own body. So in the present verse, Tyaksham Deham cannot mean that the Lord gave up his body and died because his body is eternal. How can the body die? So therefore, it is very confusing to have this understanding. Lord died, and he quotes so many Puranas. He quotes from Varaha Puran, Mahavaraha Puran. All forms of the Lord are eternal. Then he quotes from Madhva Smriti. I am Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and all that. These forms are not born, nor do they die. So, all these are, Prabhupada quotes few of them. And Chakravarti Thakur writes all the verses also. And then he quotes Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Sachidananda Vigraha. Lord Swami is eternal. Then he quotes from Narsimha Tapani Upanishad. Then he quotes from Bhagavatam Krishna Dyumani Nimaloche. We heard this few weeks back. Nigarneshu Ajgarenaha. Our houses have been swallowed by the snake of lamentation. So all these, he quotes so many verses, proving that Lord's form is eternal. So he says,
During the word-to-word meaning, it is a Deham universal form.
so Prabhupada gives another meaning, another understanding. Deha means he gave up his universal form. He gave up this universe. So universe is his body only, is the material manifestation. So that's how Acharyas, they, tell this, okay, give up his body means give up his material universe. Material universe is his body only. So that also is another understanding. So that's what is also Chakravarti Thakur writes. He says, according to the Sandarbha, giving the body of earth, Deham, to the Devatas like Brahma for protecting. He gave up his body and he said, you protect and I'm going. So that's how. So there are many statements showing that Lord's form is eternal. So if we take this verse to mean that Lord gave up his body, actually it is a contradictory statement. It is not possible. So we have to see the Acharya's commentaries and the previous verses. Context kya hai? So we have to see the context. So just like if somebody says, Ram is not eating whole day, but still his weight is increasing. So how to understand this? That means he's eating at night. So we have to find something which will solve this contradiction. Lord's form is eternal and he gave up his body. How come? That means he gave up his material universe. So that is one reason, one understanding. So Prabhupada writes about that. Brahma Samhita, Prabhupada quotes, Lord has many forms. Svitam is also used, which indicates he left his gigantic universal form called Virat Rupa. And then Lord's form is Satchidananda. And people who are fool, they can't understand this. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita mudhoyam navijanati. Prabhupada quotes that. Okay. Now, next verse. Asma lokadu parate Mai jnanam madashrayam arhatyuddhava evadha sampratmavatam
Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly interested with knowledge about me.
So Shukadeva Goswami is saying that Krishna, I was thinking like this. That now, a small from Lokadu Parate, now I am about to disappear from this universe. Mai Jnanam Madashrayam, this knowledge of myself, Arhati e Uddhava eva. Only Uddhava deserves to be entrusted with this knowledge of mine. Nobody else is qualified for it. Madashrayam. So Jnanam Madashrayam. It is a very important word. Prabhupada is also saying. Significant verse. So the Jnanam is, there are three departments of knowledge. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan. So Jnanam Madashrayam, the most confidential knowledge is knowledge of Bhagwan. Iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddhva buddhiman syat kritkrityascha. Etad buddhva buddhimanasya kritkrityascha bharata. Guhyatamam, the most confidential knowledge. In the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also, 60, 61, 62. 60th verse is Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hridideshya Vitishtati. And then Krishna says, I have given you more confidential knowledge. Now I am going to give you the most confidential. Sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha shrunu me. अभी गुह्यतर ज्ञान है दिया है, अभी गुह्यतम क्या है? मन मना भव मद भक्तो. So that is how guhyata, most confidential knowledge is knowledge of Bhagavan. Bhaktyamam abhijanati, only devotee knows this. And because Uddhava was the best devotee, so he was the most qualified person to get this knowledge. Nodhavonvopi manyuno yadgunairnadita prabhu ato madvayunam lokam grahya
Ato madhu lokam prayah tishtatu.
Uddhava is not
Uddhava is
inferior to
not-
me because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in the world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of God.
Na uddhavo nanu na uddhavo anuapi, even slightly nyuna, inferior man to me, not even slightly inferior to me. So he is as good as me. Yad gunair na arditah prabhu. So he
Therefore,
is
he
never
will remain in this
affected by
world.
he is never affected by the modes of nature. He is as good as me only. Ato, therefore, mad vayunam lokam, the knowledge of me, he is qualified to disseminate. Grahayan ihatishtatu. So he is the most qualified person to disseminate this knowledge, staying in this world. So in the previous verse, Chakravarti Thakur writes, he is qualified as my duplicate. Actually, in this verse, sorry. He is qualified as my duplicate to give knowledge to the sages of Badrika Ashram who want to receive knowledge from my mouth and they want to see me. मेरे जैसा कौन है? Only one person, Uddhava. So therefore, he should go and give this knowledge. This is the, so Prabhupada in the purport, he describes the qualifications of Krishna's representative. Who can represent Krishna? First is he should be unaffected by the modes. Highest qualification is he should be Brahman, not affected by the modes. Tuguna. Shuddha Sattva, basically. And then he quotes this verse. He says, as the Lord is not affected, the pure devotee is also not affected. There is a similar verse like that in the first canto. The Lord never comes in touch with material nature, and the devotees of the Lord are also similar. When Krishna enters the Dwarka, this verse comes. Etad Ishanam Ishasya Prakriti Asthopi. All the Lord is saying in this material world, he never gets na yujyate. Tadatmasthair yatha buddhi tadashraya. Similarly, the devotees of the Lord, they never come in touch with the material nature. So that's how the devotee of the Lord is, because he has taken shelter of the Lord, he never gets affected. It's just like the father, if the child is with father who is holding an umbrella, so the child will also be saved. So father has umbrella and the child is standing with him. So the child is also saved from rains. So Lord, he is not affected by the modes, and because devotee is taking shelter of the Lord, devotee is also not affected by the modes. So that's how it is. He is a Goswami, Jivan Mukta. Prabhupada writes, who is a Jivan Mukta? Ihayasya Harer Dasya Karmana Manasa Gira Nikhilashu Vyavastasu Jivan Mukta. And this person is called as Goswami. Chakravarti Thakur writes, this verse describes Uddhava's qualification as the replica of the Lord. Uddhava is not all less than me, not at all less than me, because he's not disturbed by modes. So then Shukdev was Parikshit Maharaj will say, well, there are many Jivan Muktas in the world who are not disturbed by gunas. Are they not also equal to the Lord? So he says, yes, that's true. Therefore, the following is the real meaning. He is not at all pained by spiritual qualities of strength, intelligence, knowledge, and renunciation. He's not affected by any of these. These are the qualities which come when a devotee starts practicing. He's not affected. That means he has the ability to control their effects. He's not affected by these qualities because a devotee naturally gets wonderful qualities. Which verse says this? Devotee naturally gets good qualities. Anyone remember the verse? All the good qualities manifest in the character of a devotee.
Yes, sir.
Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunai satra samasate surah. Yes. Okay, next verse. So now he describes the position of Krishna. Who is Krishna? 32 to 30, in 32nd verse, he describes the position of Krishna. Who is Krishna? He emphasizes more on this. Evam triloka guruna
Evam triloka
Evam
sandishta
Triloka Guna
badaraya
Tannishta
shramamasa
Sabbayonina
harimije samadhi.
Yadhyastamana Sadhya
Harimije
Harimiji Samadhina.
Sukdev Goswami informed the king that Uddhava, being thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all Vedic knowledge and the spiritual master of the worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Vajrikashram and engaged himself there in dance to satisfy the Lord.
So Evam triloka guruna, the personality who was the spiritual master of the three worlds, triloka guru, sandishtaha shabdayonina. He perfectly instructed Uddhavji, and after that, Badari ashram asadya. So Uddhav reached Badarika ashram, Harimije samadhina, and there he engaged himself in trance to satisfy the Lord. So Uddhava, he followed the instruction, he reached Badrika ashram, and he was doing tapasya there also. So in the purport, Prabhupada describes the position of Krishna. Who is Krishna? Who is Triloka Guru? So he's the spiritual master of the three worlds. As Bhagavad Gita says, one who knows Krishna, one cannot know the Krishna unless one is graced by the Lord himself. The Lord exhibited this specific mercy towards Arjun and Uddhava while he was in the material world. So Bhagavad Gita very clearly describes how Krishna is the Supreme Lord and one cannot know the Lord without his mercy. Thapiteneva padambujadvaya prasadaleshanugrihita eva hi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno na chanya ekopi chiram vichinvan. Unless one gets a drop of mercy of Krishna, he cannot understand Krishna. That's what Gopinath Acharya tells to Sarvam Bhattacharya. Sarvam Bhattacharya asks, he is a great, about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a Mahabhagavat, it seems. But who is he actually in his previous ashram? Who was he? So Gopinath Acharya says he was actually son of Jagannath Mishra and he took sannyas from Bharati Sampradaya. Sarvam Bhattacharya says Bharati means second class Sampradaya. Second class sannyas. First class is Saraswati or Tirtha or Ashram. It's first class sannyasi. Shankara gave 10 types of sannyas. So Bharati is the second class. So he says, I can elevate him to the first class. I will reinitiate him. So Gopinath Acharya says, do you know who he is? He is not dependent on all the external formalities. He is the Supreme Lord himself. Sarvam Bhattacharya says, disciples of Sarvam Bhattacharya say, what is the proof? How can you say Lord is Triyogi? Lord never appears in Kali Yuga. So Gopinath Acharya, he says, actually Lord is Triyogi means Lord does not appear as Leela Avatar in Kali Yuga, but he appears as Yuga Avatar. Yuga Avatar appears in every Yuga. And then Sarvam Bhattacharya says, but you know, how can I accept this? Sarvam Bhattacharya says, Gopinath Acharya says, you will never understand because you have not received the mercy of the Lord. Unless one receives mercy of the Lord, one can never understand. You yourself saw how Mahaprabhu, he was in ecstasy and he manifested Mahabhava. That Mahabhava is not possible for any human being to manifest. You yourself saw. Still you are not accepting. That means you have not received the mercy of the Lord. Sarvam Bhattacharya says, Acha, I have not received the mercy of the Lord. You have received the mercy of the Lord. What is the proof that you have received the mercy of the Lord? Logical question है आपको कैसे पता चल गया कि आप how can I believe? So Gopinath Acharya says, if somebody seeing the symptoms doesn't understand who this personality is, that means he has not received. I can understand seeing the manifestations. So you cannot understand, although he is manifesting his bodily symptoms. So that's how one can never understand the Lord without the mercy of the Lord. One cannot know the Krishna. Okay. And then Prabhupada says, undoubtedly, Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord on the battlefield just to encourage Arjuna to fight. And yet, to complete the knowledge of Gita, Lord instructed Uddhava. So what was spoken to Arjuna was just a preliminary understanding. Uddhava Gita is the complete understanding. Those 18 chapters of Uddhava Gita, 18 or 21 chapters of Uddhava Gita, that has all the technical details and wonderful understanding of Lord and the process of devotional service, all types of yoga, everything is mentioned. All avatars and then Yuga avatar and who is avatar in Kali Yuga, everything is mentioned. One who is able to understand the Supreme Lord by going through the pages of the Vedas may take shelter of one of the Lord's devotees in order to advance further in knowledge of Supreme. Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhaktau. That is what Brahma Samhita says. While present on this earth, Lord executed many uncommon pastimes, but one thing was remaining. He could not go to the sages of Badrika Ashram. So therefore, Lord sent this message with Uddhava. Okay, so what was the message which was given to Uddhava? So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also writes, very nice, what all was told. He says, actually, in some kalpas, the Lord himself goes there. And in some, he does not send Uddhava. So in this kalpa, he sent Uddhava. In some other kalpas, Lord goes himself. And to the recipient of the message, Narayan, so he sent information. So actually, interestingly, Narayan Rishi wanted to meet the Lord. Of course, the sages were there, but Narayan Rishi was the main people. They were the main people who wanted to meet the Lord. They could not meet. That's how even the avatars of the Lord, they get attracted to Krishna. So now, Krishna sent this information. What information he sent? My manifest pastimes on earth will last 125 years. That is the limit. Now it is finished. I will make these pastimes disappear along with my associates. Going to Prabhas and establishing the Devatas back in their posts. Now I, in my portion of Vishnu, who Brahma requested to come, will go back to Vaikuntha. Brahma requested Vishnu only, na? So Vishnu will go back to Vaikuntha, invisible to all. I will come to Badrik Ashram with a portion of Arjun. So that's what Krishna is telling. I'll come to Badrik Ashram with Arjun. Since Uddhava, the chief of my dear devotees, endowed with all of my attractive qualities and similar form, have been assigned to you, who long to see my perfect form. He should stay in Badrik Ashram to give knowledge to the world. So that is the knowledge, that is the message which Lord gave to Uddhava, to Narayan sages through Uddhava. And Srila Prabhupada writes some more details in the fourth paragraph. What was the nature of the message? The Lord is undoubtedly the source of all knowledge, and the message dispatched through Uddhava to Naranarayan and other sages were also part of Vedic knowledge, but they were more confidential. And such confidential knowledge was known only to the Lord and Uddhav. So, what was the confidential knowledge? Prabhupada writes. First is, so Chakravarti Thakur also writes, the contents of the more confidential message were to meet, which was not there in Bhagavad Gita and Chatushloki. So all this message was not there in Bhagavad Gita and Chatushloki. So what was not there? To meet Shrutadev, Krishna went to Mithila. To kill Banasur and other demons, he went to other places. To take the Parijat, he went to Swarga. To bring the Brahmana sons, we went to Vaikuntha. To bring back Devaki's dead sons, he went to Sutal. And he was certainly informed of the conditions of life on other planets, mystery of Krishna's departure and annihilation of his dynasty. All this was the confidential message. So Narayan and Rishis, they were told everything. Ye Krishna karne wale hain, ye hain, and this was not told to you earlier. So this was the message. Okay, so now in 33, 36 verses, Vidura's enlightenment by Uddhava and further journey is described. Viduropyuddhava shrutva
Vidropya Uddhava Shrutva
Krishnasya
Krishna
paramatmana
Krishnasya Paramatmanah
Hridayopatya
Hridayapate Deyasya
cha
Karmani
Shlaghatanisha.
Hintani Cha.
Vidura also heard from Uddhava about the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna, the Super Soul, in the mortal world, which is a subject matter sought after with great perseverance by the great sages.
Okay, so even the great sages cannot understand, but that knowledge was given by Uddhava to Vidurji. And then next verse, he describes non-devotees can never understand, only devotees can understand. Dehanyasam cha tasyaivam
Dehanyasam
dhira
Dehanyasa Patichaiva
vardhanam
Nanam Devyavardhanam
Dhirana Dharyavardhanam
Yesham Dushkaranam
Yasha Dushkara
Kushanam
Vasunam Bilvatmanam
Vishnu Kushanam. Oh, yeah. What translation is right? What word? Yeah, very good. Yeah. What is the translation?
The Lord glorious acts and his acceptance of various transcendental forms for the performance of extraordinary pastimes in the mortal world are very difficult for anyone other than his devotees to understand. And for the beasts, they are simply a mental disturbance.
Deha Nyasam. So Krishna leaving this world and Dhiranam, Dhairyavardhanam. So all these wonderful activities which Lord performs, it is a matter of great perseverance for the sages. Anyesham dushkarataram, those who are not devotees, they can never understand. Dushkara, very difficult to understand. No devotees can understand. Pashunam viklava atmanam, because those who are those who are beasts, those who are animal-like, they are just disturbed mentally by their body, by their mind, by their intelligence. They are always disturbed. Inside, outside, always disturbed. That's how body is made. So they will never understand. So for beasts, that means to have beastly mentality, animalistic mentality. They will never understand the pastimes of the Lord. यद पाद पंकज पलाश विलाश भक्त्या कर्माश्रयं ग्रथितमुद्ग्रथयन्ति सन्तः तदवन्न रिक्तमतयो यतयोऽपि रुद्धा श्रोतो गणास्तमरणं भज वासुदेवम्. Four Kumaras are telling to Prithu Maharaj. Yad Pad Pankaj Palash Vilasa Bhaktya, the devotees who are taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, what happens? Karma Ashaya, the fruitive mentality, Grathitam, the knot of fruitive desires, Udgrathayanti, completely gets uprooted. But Tadvanna, those who are just speculating, Riktamataya, they can never uproot their material desires. Shroto ganas tamaranam bhrajavasudevam. So therefore, there is only one way to hear the pastimes of the Lord. So others can never understand, even if they are Jnans. Okay, so now after, as Vidurji departs, he was really sad. He was crying very loudly. Atmanam cha kuru sreshtha.
Atmanam cha kuru sreshtha.
Krishnena manasekshitam.
Krishnena
कृष्णेन
Dhyayan
मनसि चिदं
ध्यायन्
ध्यायन् गते भगवते रुरोद
प्रेम विहवलः
रुरोद प्रेम विहालः विह्वल प्रेम विह्वल.
Krishna was putting this world, Vidura began to cry loudly, overwhelmed by the catastrophe of the life.
Yes. So in the 5th chapter, 21st verse, actually Maitreya informed Vidura that Lord, he instructed me to speak. Of course, Lord must have spoken something to Maitreya also for sure. That's what Maitreya Muni tells in the 5th chapter. Lord told me to instruct this message to you. So when Maitreya, when Vidurji hears that Lord remembered me at the time of leaving this planet, so out of gratitude of Lord's mercy, if somebody is such a great personality, just like if Gopal Krishna Maharaj comes here and he's leaving and he remembers, oh, please tell Krishnandan Prabhu I was remembering him. मुझे याद किए, इतने busy, इतने बड़े हैं, he has so many things to do, why he has to remember me? So that was fraction of what Vidurji experienced. Krishna remembered me. He had unlimited devotees. Who am I? And he remembered me. While quitting this world, he could have remembered so many devotees. So out of gratitude, he cried. So Prabhupada writes, Vidura was overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love when he understood that Krishna thought of him at the last moment. But look, that's the last thing which Krishna is doing on this planet. So that will be remembered by everyone throughout his stay on this planet. He may have done so many things. Last में क्या किसको याद किया? Vidurji, oh, he was so, and he says he thought of himself as insignificant, and he was remembered by the Lord by his causeless mercy. Vidura accepted this as a great favor, and thus he cried. It's like Prabhupada, in the last days, he last few days, so he took his ring and I said, please give this to George Harrison. He remembered how George Harrison helped me. So that's the treasure, that's the dhan a devotee will always relish throughout his life. सबसे एंड में मुझे याद किए, so that is how it is. Our Srinath Ji Prabhu tells that before Srinath Ji Prabhu, you may be knowing, some of you. So when Prabhupada came last time to Mumbai, and then he made all the arrangements for him to go back. And he booked the train and first class of the bogie entirely for Prabhupada, and devotees knew abhi wapas nahi aane wale, because he was really in a bad shape. So then he drove Prabhupada in his car, and then Prabhupada he got down on the station, and Srinathji Prabhu he took Prabhupada, helped him to reach the train, and he could not talk to him much. But then later he came back and somebody said, Prabhupada's left this garland for you, So that is how these devotees, they cherish throughout their life. The last thing, last time Prabhupada was in Mumbai and he remembered me. And he was not a very senior devotee. He was just he was son of a very great minister, and he was taking to spirituality, Krishna consciousness in that time. So that's how it was. So Vidurji was also crying. Okay, then Prabhupada writes, this crying is the last word in the progressive path of devotional service. As Gaur Govind Maharaj says, we have opened a crying school, So you have to learn to cry for Krishna. One who can cry for the Lord in love is certainly successful in the line of devotional service. Of course, it is not an artificial sahajiya type of crying. It is a natural outcome of a heart which is full of devotion. Okay, next verse. Kalindya kati bhi siddha.
Kali.
Bharatarshava. Prapta swasarita. Grasto.
After passing a few days on the bank of river Yamuna, Vidura, the self-realized soul, reached the bank of Ganges, where the great sage Maitreya was situated. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so he traveled now searching for Maitreya. Kahan hai Maitreya? So that's how these devotees. It was amazing. मतलब बोल दिया अभी जाओ मैत्रेय को मिलो. कहाँ है? कहीं तो रहेंगे गंगा पे. So for us, just staying in temple and searching one person at a phone, किधर है किधर, we have to search. So he just went on searching and he found Maitreya on the bank of Ganga. So that's how the chapter ends. And the 6th chapter is Vidura talks with Maitreya. So now Shukdev Goswami is continuing. Dwari Dunadya Rishabha Kuruna. Shattopasrishtya Chitabhava Siddha. Vitriptaha.
Sukadev Goswami said, Vidura, amongst the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, thus reached the source of celestial Ganges river, Haridwar, where Maitreya, the great, fathomless, learned sage of the world, was seated. Vidura, who was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him.
So now in this 5th chapter, Maitreya, he will describe the topic of Sarga again. The creation is coming again, 4th time here in this 5th chapter. So Dwari Dyunadya, at the source of celestial river Ganga, Rishabha Kuruna, that Vidura, who was the best of the Kauravas, he saw the Maitreya Rishi, Maitreya Asinam, he was seated, he was Agad Bodham, who had fathomless knowledge. Shattopa Srishta. So Shatta means Vidura, Upasritya. So Vidurji approached the spiritual master. Achyuta Bhava Siddha. that Maitreya Muni, he was satisfied in trance. Achyut Bhav. Earlier he was a Gyan Mishra Bhakta. Now he became purified, a pure devotee. Gunavitripta, he was satisfied. He was Saushilya, Papracha, Saushilya, Gunavitripta. He was gentle, he was satisfied, and Vidurji, he inquired. So Prabhupada writes, Vidurji had already surpassed the infallible nature of living entity due to his Achyut Bhava. So Vidurji was also situated in the Achyut Bhava. He was perfect in devotional service. Shatta Upasritya. Shatta, although Vidurji approached Maitreya Muni, but Shatta himself was Achyut Bhava Siddha. So Achyut Bhava Siddha is not about Maitreya Muni, it is about Vidurji. So Vidurji was also a pure devotee, Achyut Bhava Siddha. But a devotee is never satisfied speaking and hearing about Krishna. He wants to hear more about Krishna. So Prabhupada writes that Vidur had already surpassed the fallible nature. He is called as Achyut Bhava. Anyone who is absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord is a liberated soul and has all the admirable qualities. Okay, now, very famous verse is coming. Vidurji reaches Maitreya, offers respects, and the first thing he asks is not about himself. He asks about people in general. Very famous verse. Sukhaya karmani karoti loko.
Sukhaya
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 karmani karoti
karmani karoti
loko.
loko.
Nate Sukham
Nate
Nate
sukham
sukham
duparam va.
Dukham
Vidante bhuyastam evam dukham.
evam
Yadatra
dukham
yuktam
yatra
bhagavan
yuktam
vadena.
bhagavan videna.
Hare Krishna. Vidur said, O great sage, everyone in this world engages in the fruitive activities to attain happiness, but one finds neither satiation nor the mitigation of distress. On the contrary, one is only aggravated by such activities. Please, therefore, give us direction on how one should live for real happiness. Hare Krishna.
Sukhaya karmani karoti. People, everyone in this world, they are engaging in karma for what? For happiness, sukha. But sukh to milta nahi hai. Na tay sukham vanya duparamamba. No satiation, no mitigation of distress. Therefore, vindeta bhuyaha tata eva dukkham. On one side doesn't get satiation, other side aggravation of such distress. दुख कम नहीं होता है, बढ़ ही जाता है. Therefore, yad atra, O Bhagavan, O great sage, please give us the directions how one should live for real happiness. So that is the first thing which is asking. Why he didn't ask about Paramam Sthiti? वही पूछने के लिए आया ना. सीधा सीधा Paramam Sthiti क्यों नहीं पूछे? Why is asking about दुनिया के लोगों के बारे में पूछ रहे हैं? Why? So Prabhupada writes, out of his natural humility, he did not immediately ask about the Lord. He inquired into a subject which would be of great importance to common man. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives another reason. So Vidurji, he felt himself unqualified. And although he received that wonderful knowledge from Uddhava, but Vidurji, he thought, I am not so much qualified, I don't know anything, I am not a great devotee. So he considered in his mind that Uddhava told that when Lord instructed me, in the last chapter, 10th verse, Uddhavji told, Tasya anuraktasya muner mukunda pramod bhavanata kandarasya. He was standing besides me and just hearing. He was attached to the Lord. He was listening attentively. Tasya anuraktasya mune. So the Lord taught this knowledge to whom? To Uddhav. And not to Maitreya. Maitreya को नहीं बताया, उद्धव को बताया. So Vidurji thought to understand if Maitreya heard or not. मतलब उनको बताया नहीं है whether he heard it or not. In the beginning, I'll not ask about the secret knowledge in case he does not know. He may feel embarrassed. So I will ask some of my own questions. पहले मैं अपना कुछ पूछता हूँ. And if he knows about that knowledge, then he will himself say, "Oh Vidurji, Lord taught me. I was taught by the Lord this knowledge just for giving to you." खुद से बताएंगे तो अच्छा है. I will not ask. In case he doesn't know, in case he didn't listen. That's how a devotee is so much sensitive about approaching a great personality. So he's taking care of all the subtle emotions. Maitreya should not feel bad. सुना नहीं क्या आपने आपके सामने बताया उद्धव को? You didn't listen. So on his own he will explain, because that's how a devotee is. And that's why Parikshit Maharaj, he didn't approach Shamik Rishi for forgiveness. He was feeling embarrassed that the message was given in such an embarrassing way that he was so very embarrassed. My son has given this curse. Please prepare. So he did not want to embarrass Shamik Rishi more. So that's how a devotee is very, very sensitive towards others' feelings. So therefore, Vidurji didn't ask about the Paramam Sthiti. He asked the basic questions. So Prabhupada writes how a great devotee always thinks about the welfare of people in general. It's like Prahlad Maharaj says, I am not concerned about this material existence. I am lamenting about the fallen condition of people. What's that verse? Shoche tato vimukha chetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharam udvahato vimudha. And the first two lines he says, I am not disturbed by this material world because I am absorbed in Krishna, your thoughts. I am lamenting about the people of Kali Yuga. Shoche means lamenting. So Prabhupada writes, out of natural humility, he did not ask about the Lord. He inquired about the subject which was of great importance to common man, which would be of great importance. A common man cannot understand the Lord. He must first know the real position of his life under the influence of illusory energy. In illusion, one thinks I am happy that he can be happy only by fruitive activities. But what actually happens is that one becomes more and more entangled. There is a nice song in this connection, Prabhupada says. Because of a great desire to have all happiness in life, I built a house. But unfortunately, the whole scheme has turned to ashes because the house was unexpectedly set on fire. Anyone knows which song is this? I tried to find, but I could not. Prabhupada must be putting some bhajan or something. I tried to build a house, but that house is now burned to ashes. The law of nature is like that. Everyone tries to become happy by planning, but the law of nature is so cruel, it sets fires to one's schemes. And the third is also a very, very wonderful verse. Janasya Krishna Vimukhasya Daivat
Janasya Krishna Daiva
Dukhitasya Anugrahaye Charanti Nunam
Anugraye charanti nunam
Janardanasya
bhutani mavyani janardanasya.
O my Lord, the great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. to show the compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord.
Janasya Krishna Vimukha. So those fallen people who are averse to subordination to the Lord, Daiva Vimukha. So that Supreme Lord who is Krishna, those fallen people who have turned their face away and they are under the influence of external energy. What is happening to them? Adharma Shilasya, because they engage in sin. So result is Sudukhitasya, they are suffering. So Anugrahayeha, just to show mercy to them, Charanti, travel. People like you travel only for one purpose. Anugraha. Bhutani bhavyani janardanasya. Oh my Lord, the great philanthropic souls, bhavyani, the great philanthropic souls, they travel only for the welfare of such fallen people. So same theme, great personalities travel for the people of welfare of people in general. So Prabhupada tells about the fallen conditions of living entities, how they are suffering in this world. They are trying to do dharma, artha, kama, moksha, but they are always, baffled in their attempts. And he says, karma kand, jnana kand, keval vishera bhand, amrit boli jeba khaye, ya nana yoni sada pire, kadarya bhakshana kare, tara janma adha pate aaye. Karma kand, jnana kand, this is a pot of poison. Try to do any of these things, you will suffer. So Prabhupada writes that, and then he says the purpose of all living entities in this world is to perfect their life and go back. And this message is given by pure devotees. Okay, so then translation. Fourth verse, somebody can read the translation.
Therefore, O great sage, please give me instruction on the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, so that he who is situated in the heart of everyone can be pleased to impart from within knowledge of the absolute truth in terms of ancient Vedic principles delivered only to those who are purified by the process of devotional service.
Okay, so now he says, please instruct me, O Sadhu Varya, O best of the sages, Sadhu Varya Adisha. Adisha means please instruct me. You are the best of the sages. Please instruct me. You are capable of it. And Shamnaha. That instruction will bring auspiciousness in my life and in the lives of everyone. Samradito Bhagavan Yena Pumsam. So that Supreme Lord who is worshipped, Samaradita, having perfectly served. So you have perfectly served that Lord who is there in the heart, Hridistito who is there in the heart, Yachati Bhakti Pute. So that Supreme Lord, if somebody worships him with devotion, he awards devotion, Bhakti Puta. With devotion, if somebody worships him, Lord awards him devotion and knowledge. Jnanam sa tattva adhigamam puranam. So that Lord gives the knowledge. So Prabhupada in the purport, he describes about jnana, karma and yoga, and he says by devotional service one gets completely purified of the coverings of jnana, karma and yoga, and he can go back. And he quotes this verse, Tesham Satati Yuktanam, a person who practices devotion, Krishna gives him the intelligence, Dadami Buddhi. And then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada writes that those who are jnanis, karmis and yogis, they don't get direct cooperation from the Lord. But bhaktas, Lord is actively participating to make them successful. So that is what Prabhupada writes, that even as a Chaitya Guru from inside and as a Acharya from outside, Lord is helping our devotee. And Gyanis may have to go to many lives, for many lives, Bahunam Janmanam, then one can attain perfection. But for a devotee, it is not such a long journey, because Lord personally guides a devotee. Then he asks a question about. So in the fourth verse, he describes how devotional service is the best path. All the other paths, they are not so great. Only a devotee can very easily achieve perfection. All the other paths, they have to, work. The Gyanis, the Karmis, the Yogis, they have to really work hard. Bhakti is the best path. Now, he inquires about the Purusha avatars, and then he inquires about Virata Rupa, and then he inquires about Leela avatars. Karoti karmani kritavataro.
Karoti karmani
Koti karmani kritavtaro
yanna tantro bhagavan
Yatha sasajja.
Bhagavan
यथा
sajja
ससज्जाग्रैदं निरीह
Yatha
संस्थाप्य वृत्तिं जगतो विधत्ते.
O great sage, kindly narrate how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the independent, desireless Lord of three worlds and the controller of all energy, accept incarnations and create the cosmic manifestations with perfectly arranged regulative principles for its maintenance. Hare Krishna.
So Lord is described here as independent, desireless, and he's the Lord of three worlds. Karoti karmani kritavataro. He is doing so many transcendental activities, although he is desireless. Yani Atmatantro, he is independent. Triyadhishaha is the Lord of three. It has come earlier also. He is the Lord of three Purushavatars. He is the Lord of three modes. So that's how he is called the Lord of threes. Prabhupada writes about that. And Yathasa Sarjagra Idam Niriha. So the Lord, he accepts various incarnations and creates this universe. That means he takes this Purushavatars. So please tell me about those Purushavatars. So Prabhupada writes, the whole material world is conducted by the three Purushas. So material nature is not independent. Prabhupada gives the example that if somebody sees some bags of skin on the neck of a goat and thinks I'll get milk from there also. No, he'll not get milk. So Prabhupada gives the example. The Lord is independent and desireless. He does not create the material world for his own satisfaction, as we create our household affairs to fulfill our desires. Actually, the material world is created for illusory enjoyment of the souls. So Lord creates and then Lord maintains also. There is no scarcity for maintenance. But people who are having poor fund, they think, oh, there is overpopulation, the resources are not sufficient. There is no scarcity. And whenever there is a living being on earth, his subsistence is immediately arranged. The Lord is providing even for ant and elephant in the Amazon jungles. Everybody is provided. And then Prabhupada says, other species who far outnumber human society are never disturbed for maintenance. They are never seen dying of starvation. It is only human society that is disturbed about the food situation. And to cover up the real fact of administrative mismanagement, take shelter in the plea that population is increasing. So that's how Prabhupada says that when Lord has made this world, he has made it perfect. Purnamida Purnamidam Purnamudachyate. So everything comes from the Lord is perfect. Lord is perfect. So there is a perfect arrangement for everybody to be taken care of. So that's how he asks about the Purusha avatars. How these Purusha avatars are creating this universe. Please tell me. So then in the next verse, he describes Virata Rupa. That Purusha avatar, he lies down on his own heart spread in the form of sky, and thus placing the whole creation in that space, he expands himself into many entities. He does not have to endeavor for his maintenance because he is a master of all mystic powers and proprietor of everything. So he asks somehow, he is telling that Lord is creating, he is maintaining, he is the Virata Rupa. And then he asks about the Leela avatars. So that we'll be discussing in the next class. We'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I'll put the question paper on the group.